Why do you own 17 half-empty notebooks, 3 abandoned guitars, and a bread maker still in its box? Because somewhere between the dream and the doing, you paid a tax. Not to the government, not to any visible authority, but to the marketplace of your own inadequacy. Every dusty yoga mat, every Rosetta Stone package promising fluency you never achieved, every expensive camera-gathering mold in your closet, they're all receipts. Evidence of a crime committed against your future self. The crime is simple. You bought the skill instead of building it. You purchased the identity instead of earning it. And the market, that patient, smiling predator, has been waiting for people like you since before your grandfather was born. This is the story of the hobby tax. The invisible tribute extracted from anyone who confuses buying equipment with developing competence. It's older than you think, darker than you imagine. And right now, at this very moment, it's working inside your brain, whispering that the solution to your incomplete self is just one more purchase away: the photography course, the premium gym membership, the woodworking tool set that costs more than your rent. The market doesn't care if you ever use these things. In fact, it profits more when you don't. Because a person who quits is a person who buys again, and again, and again. Let me take you back to where this started, because every con has an origin story, and this one begins in the ashes of the Great Depression. 1933. America is broken. Not just economically, though that's bad enough. 1 in 4 men can't find work. Families are living in tents made of cardboard and hope, but there's something worse happening beneath the surface. Something that terrifies the people who own the factories and the department stores and the advertising agencies. Americans have stopped buying things they don't need. They've stopped dreaming in products. When you're worried about eating, you don't care about the newest gadget or the latest fashion. You care about survival. And survival doesn't require constant consumption. The system nearly died from that. Not from the stock market crash, but from the moment when ordinary people remembered they could live with less. That realization was more dangerous to the economic order than any revolution. So they had to fix it. They had to rebuild the machine. And to do that, they needed to answer one question. How do you make people want things they don't need when they've just learned they can survive without them? The answer came from an unlikely place. Edward Bernays, nephew of Sigmund Freud, the man who turned propaganda into public relations, figured it out. You don't sell people products. You sell them identities. You sell them the person they wish they were. A woman doesn't buy a cigarette because she wants tobacco. She buys it because she wants to be the kind of woman who smokes cigarettes in public, the kind of woman who claims her independence with fire and ash. A man doesn't buy a car because he needs transportation. He buys it because he wants to be the kind of man who owns that car, who projects that power, that status, that sexual potency. Bernays proved this in 1929 with his Torches of Freedom campaign, convincing women that cigarettes were symbols of liberation rather than products of addiction. He proved it again and again, turning consumption into identity formation. And the entire advertising industry, rising from the Depression like a phoenix made of want and glitter, learned the lesson. They stopped selling objects. They started selling transformations. By the 1950s, this had become an art form, a science, a religion. Post-war America was drowning in factory capacity built for wartime production. They could make anything now. Refrigerators, televisions, automobiles, kitchen appliances that promised to free the housewife from drudgery. But there was a problem. People didn't need all this stuff. A refrigerator from 1945 worked just fine in 1955. So they invented planned obsolescence on one hand and lifestyle marketing on the other. They made products that broke faster, and they made you feel broken if you didn't buy the new one. The hobby boom started here, in this era of manufactured identity. Suddenly, magazines were full of advertisements, showing men in their garages, building things, fixing things, creating things. The message was clear. A real man has hobbies. A real man doesn't just work and sleep. He develops himself. He has interests. He has skills. And those skills require tools. Lots of tools. A whole workshop full of tools. You couldn't just decide to take up woodworking and start with a handsaw and some sandpaper. No. You needed the full setup. The table saw. The router. The drill press. The dust collection system. The workbench made of heavy maple. All of it, right from the start, or you weren't serious. And if you weren't serious, what kind of man were you? Women got the same treatment, just with different products. Sewing machines that could do 40 types of stitches when you only needed 3. Kitchen gadgets for every conceivable task. Craft supplies that promised to transform you into Martha Stewart before Martha Stewart existed. The pattern was identical. The hobby wasn't the point. The purchase was the point. The identity you bought along with the equipment, that was the point. Here's where it gets darker. Somewhere in the 1960s and 70s, the marketers discovered something crucial about human psychology. They found that the moment of purchase produces a dopamine hit almost as strong as the moment of achievement. Your brain, that 3-pound lump of evolutionary wetware, can't always tell the difference between buying a guitar and learning to play a guitar. Both actions make you feel like you're moving toward your goal. Both actions make you feel like a person who plays guitar. Except one of them requires 10,000 hours of practice and bloody fingertips and the humiliation of sounding terrible for months. And the other one requires 15 minutes on a website and a credit card number. Which one do you think your brain prefers? This is the core of the hobby tax. The trap is built into your neurology. You get the reward before you do the work. And once you've gotten that reward, once you've felt that surge of possibility and identity and newness, your motivation to actually do the hard thing drops off a cliff. The expensive running shoes sitting by your door give you the identity of a runner without any of the shin splints. The pasta maker in your cabinet makes you a person who makes fresh pasta, even though you've used it exactly once and it was a disaster and you ordered Domino's afterward. The companies know this. They've known it for decades. There's a reason fitness equipment manufacturers see their biggest sales in January and their lowest usage rates by March. There's a reason craft stores are designed like casinos, all winding paths and bright colors and infinite possibilities. There's a reason online retailers show you all the accessories and add-ons and premium versions before you check out. They're not trying to help you succeed at your hobby. They're trying to harvest the hobby tax. They're farming your aspirations. And it's gotten worse. So much worse. Because now we live in the age of the side hustle, the personal brand, the monetized hobby. Now it's not enough to just dabble. Now every hobby is supposed to become a business. Every interest is supposed to generate income. You can't just enjoy baking bread. You need to start a sourdough starter subscription service. You can't just take nice photos. You need to build a portfolio and sell prints and become an Instagram influencer with brand partnerships. The hobby, that ancient human practice of doing something just because it brings you joy, has been colonized by the logic of endless optimization and profit extraction. So now the hobby tax has a multiplier effect. You don't just buy the equipment, you buy the course on how to monetize the equipment. You buy the branding package. You buy the website domain and the hosting and the email marketing software and the scheduling app and the payment processor. You buy the business cards and the logo design and the social media management tools. You spend $3,000 before you've made a single sale, before you've even decided if you actually enjoy doing this thing when it's a job instead of a passion. And here's the most insidious part. When you fail, when the business never materializes and the hobby dies under the weight of forced productivity and joyless optimization, you blame yourself. You think you weren't dedicated enough, weren't smart enough, weren't entrepreneurial enough. You never consider that maybe, just maybe, the entire system is designed to make you fail, so you'll buy the solution to your failure, which will also make you fail, which will make you buy the next solution. It's a perpetual motion machine powered by your shame and your hope in exactly equal measure. Think about the Instagram ads you see every day, the targeted Facebook promotions, the YouTube sponsors. They all promise the same thing: transformation through purchase. This course will make you a coder. This app will make you fluent in Spanish. This meal kit service will make you a chef. This meditation app will make you peaceful. This productivity system will make you focused. Buy the thing. Become the person. It's the same con Bernays was running in 1929, just with better data and faster delivery and prettier interfaces. The algorithm knows you better than you know yourself. It knows you bought a yoga mat last year and never unrolled it. So it shows you ads for a different kind of yoga mat, one that's portable, one that you can take to the park or the beach, one that removes your previous excuse. It knows you bought that online writing course and didn't finish it, so it shows you a different course, one that's shorter, more intense, more guaranteed. It knows your patterns of aspiration and abandonment better than your therapist does, and it uses that knowledge not to help you grow, but to extract the hobby tax more efficiently. Let's talk about what you're actually buying when you pay the hobby tax. It's not equipment, it's not courses, it's not memberships or subscriptions or premium features. You're buying time. Specifically, you're buying the fantasy that you can compress time, that you can skip the boring parts, the hard parts, the parts where you're terrible and you know you're terrible and everyone who sees you knows you're terrible. You want to fast forward to the moment where you're good, where you're competent, where you have the identity without the struggle. But time doesn't compress. Skill development is stubbornly linear. You can't buy your way past the 10,000 hours, despite what the marketers promise. Malcolm Gladwell didn't invent that number to sell you a shortcut. He was describing reality. The reality that mastery is built from repetition and failure and incremental improvement so slow you can't see it happening day to day. You can only see it when you look back across months or years and realize you're no longer the person who couldn't do the thing. The hobby tax is the price you pay for believing in magic, for believing that capitalism has found a way to hack human development, for believing that money can buy what only time and suffering can earn. And it's expensive, not just in dollars, though it's certainly that. The average American has spent over $2,000 on abandoned hobbies in the last 2 years, according to surveys done in 2021. But that's not the real cost. The real cost is the erosion of your self-trust. Every abandoned hobby, every unused purchase, every broken promise to yourself, it chips away at your belief that you're capable of following through. It teaches you that you're the kind of person who starts things and doesn't finish them. The kind of person who has good intentions but no discipline. The kind of person who dreams big and achieves small. And once you've internalized that identity, once you believe that story about yourself, the hobby tax becomes permanent. You'll keep paying it forever because you've accepted that you're a person who pays it. The market loves you this way, broken enough to keep trying, hopeful enough to keep buying, never quite successful enough to stop needing the next solution. You're the perfect customer, renewable, sustainable, infinitely harvestable. So what's the escape? How do you stop paying the hobby tax? First, you have to recognize that buying and doing are not the same thing. They feel the same in your brain for about 15 minutes. But one of them builds a future and one of them builds a closet full of regret and expensive garbage. The recognition alone won't save you, but it's the first step. You have to catch yourself in the moment when you're about to click Buy Now and ask a simple question. Am I buying the thing or buying the fantasy? Second, you have to kill the dream of the shortcut. There is no shortcut. There never has been. The people who are good at things got good by being bad at things for a very long time. They got good by doing the thing when it wasn't fun, when it wasn't impressive, when nobody was watching and nobody cared. They built skill in the dark, one repetition at a time, with equipment that was often cheap or broken or borrowed. The guitar player you admire didn't start with a $2,000 Martin. He started with a pawnshop acoustic that hurt his fingers and sounded like a dying cat. And he played it anyway. Third, you have to embrace what I call the constraint strategy. Start with nothing, or as close to nothing as possible. Want to be a writer? Use a pencil and paper. Want to be a photographer? Use your phone. Want to be a runner? Wear the shoes you already own. Give yourself permission to be terrible with inadequate tools. Because here's the secret the market doesn't want you to know. The tools don't matter nearly as much as you think they do. A master chef can make an incredible meal with a dull knife and a hot plate. A master painter can create beauty with cheap brushes and student-grade paint. The tools are an excuse. They're a way to delay the real work, which is confronting your own incompetence and pushing through it. Fourth, you have to redefine what a hobby is. It's not a business. It's not a side hustle. It's not content for your personal brand. It's a thing you do because doing it makes you feel more human, more alive, more connected to the part of yourself that exists outside of productivity and optimization and economic value. A real hobby has no point, no goal, no measured outcome. You do it because the doing itself is enough. And the moment you try to monetize it, the moment you try to extract value from it beyond the intrinsic joy of the activity itself, you've killed it. You've turned it into work. And work requires the tools and the courses and the systems. Work requires you to pay the hobby tax. Fifth, and this is the hard one, you have to accept that most of your hobbies will die. Most of your interests will fade. Most of the things you try, you'll quit. And that's okay. That's not failure. That's exploration. The problem isn't quitting. The problem is buying the full professional setup before you know if you'll stick with it for more than a month. Try the thing first. Try it with almost nothing. Try it until you're certain, until the desire to continue is stronger than the desire to quit. And then, maybe then, you buy the nice equipment. As a reward for showing up. As a tool to deepen a practice you've already established, not as a replacement for the practice itself. The market will hate you for this. The algorithm will scream. The Instagram ads will multiply. They'll sense your resistance and they'll try harder. They'll show you the success stories, the before and after photos, the testimonials from people who bought the thing and changed their lives. And you have to remember that for every success story they show you, there are 10,000 people who bought the same thing and it's now in a landfill or a thrift store or the back of their closet behind the other abandoned dreams. You are not immune to propaganda. You are not immune to manipulation. You are not immune to the hobby tax. None of us are. But you can be aware, you can be skeptical, you can ask questions, and you can choose every single time you feel that familiar itch to buy your way into a new identity, to stop, to wait, to sit with the discomfort of wanting something and not immediately getting it, because here's the truth they don't want you to know. You already have everything you need to start. The tools, the knowledge, the capability, they're all accessible for free or nearly free if you're willing to be patient and resourceful and humble enough to start at the bottom. The internet has democratized skill development in ways that would have seemed impossible 50 years ago. You can learn almost anything from almost anyone without spending $1. The only thing stopping you is the belief that you need to buy permission to begin. You don't need permission. You don't need the perfect setup. You don't need the course or the coach or the premium membership. You just need to start, badly, awkwardly, with whatever you have right now in this moment. And then you need to keep going, not because you bought something expensive and feel obligated, but because you chose it, because you want it, because the activity itself, divorced from outcome or profit or identity, brings you something you can't buy. That's how you stop paying the hobby tax. You stop buying skills you don't have. You start building them instead. 1 hour at a time, one mistake at a time. One small, unglamorous, unphotogenic repetition at a time. It's slower, it's harder, it's completely unmarketable, and it's the only way that actually works. The market will still be there, waiting, smiling, promising shortcuts that don't exist. But you'll walk past it, because you'll finally understand what it took humanity thousands of years to figure out, and what the advertising industry has spent a century trying to make you forget. The thing you want can't be purchased. It can only be earned.